our livestock. And also we know that we could actually ask questions here and get clear answers. All right, so today we're going to be talking about dealing with salmonellosis. I don't know if I'm correct with that pronunciation, but that's for our facilitator to worry about. Okay, so without wasting much of our time, I'm going to bring in our facilitator now so that she can carry on with what she has for us today. All right, Dr. Toby, can you hear me? Dr. Toby, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, your voice is a bit far from your phone, I think.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, I think it's better.
Is it much better now?
Yes, yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
over to you. Please, let's not forget to mute our mics and also close our videos. I'm going to be checking through so that we can have a very good session together. Mr. Samuel, please kindly mute your mic. Mr. Samuel, please kindly mute your mic because I knew I had an echo as when she was talking. Mr. Samuel, if you can hear me, please mute your mic. Thank you very much. All right, please carry on.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here again. How are you all doing? Um, okay, so today we have to be very fast because I have less than 40 minutes for this presentation. So that will give us more time for question and answers. Okay, so how to tackle salmonellosis on your poultry farm? I will start first by shedding more light on what salmonellosis is. Maybe some of us here already know what it's all about. And for people that don't know, salmonellosis in poultry is caused by salmonella bacteria. Sorry about that. And it is a major concern for both animal health and also human safety because salmonellosis has a great impact on the economy due to the losses that has been incurred in the poultry industry worldwide. It's a very, very important poultry disease of great economic importance. I hope you guys can hear me. Can I get any reaction? I hope you're following and I hope you can hear me very well.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Go ahead. Go
Thank
ahead.
you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so like I said, salmonellosis is important also for public health in the case of public health too, because salmonella is a zoonotic pathogen, and we understand that zoonotic infections, they are diseases that can be transferred from animals to humans. That's just like a very simple definition of that. So salmonellosis can be transferred from poultry. There are also some that affect other livestock and can be transferred to humans. So you see how important, how significant it is to public health. So salmonella is a bacterial pathogen. It's a bacterial pathogen, and the transmission and occurrence, I'll just briefly explain how it can be transmitted and how it's like the whole occurrence, the whole infection, how it occurs. So salmonella can be transmitted both horizontally, and when I mean horizontally, it can be transmitted in contaminated environments. It can be transmitted through feed. It can be transmitted through water, and it can also be transmitted when a flock is in direct contact or maybe comes in contact with an infected flock. So maybe you bring a particular maybe flock and introduce it to your farm without proper quarantine protocols. You can actually, that flock can be an agent of transmission to, the flock that was not previously infected with salmonellosis. It can also be transmitted vertically. And what I mean by vertically, it can be transmitted from the parents to the offspring. So in hatcheries where maybe the breeder flock has salmonellosis, it can be transmitted to the progeny. That means the eggs that is going to be gotten, and then once incubated, they're already like having the salmonella pathogen, and I mean that particular flock has already been infected even from the hatchery. So breeders and hatcheries can also be a source of contamination in maybe hatcheries where they don't like properly take care of their equipment, and even on the surface of the egg set, the pathogens can be present there, and it can also like be a source of infection to the flock. Salmonellosis in poultry is very prominent in the rainy season. It's very prominent. It can is also like very endemic also in other seasons, but particularly in the rainy season is more prominent because the salmonella bacteria has a more favorable condition to thrive and to spread because of the high moisture and humidity. Also, the rainy season can lead to damp litter and feed, and this provides like a very good breeding ground for the salmonella pathogen to grow and spread. Also, fecal contamination, because the rain can wash away the salmonella contaminated feces or surfaces and just wash it from the environment into water sources or into feed, and this causes a high risk of infection for poultry, because you might not know, maybe the water you are using you might think is clean, but what if something has happened and then that water is already infected with salmonella pathogen, yeah, and then you introduce that water or that feed to your flock. Also, environmental factors like soil type, ambient temperature. I mentioned humidity levels already. And then even from the trends, it has been seen that salmonella has higher prevalence rates in the rainy season. So when you understand the transmission routes, like I explained some of the transmission routes, and you implement like put measures in place, is very crucial in reducing the impact of this disease in poultry farm. So let me briefly talk about the causative agents. I've talked about the transmission. Let me talk about the causative agents like the bacterial pathogen salmonella. Salmonellosis in general is caused by there are various thousands of species of salmonella species, and we'll basically be discussing the two major salmonella species that are important in poultry. So two highly pathogenic strains that are common in poultry includes Salmonella pullorum, which is the common pullorum disease we hear about, and then it's also called bacillary white diarrhea. And we also have Salmonella gallinarum. That one is called fowl typhoid. Fowl typhoid. The Salmonella pullorum is common in chicks, and the Salmonella gallinarum is common in older birds. They are very pathogenic, very highly pathogenic. The two of them, they are highly pathogenic, and they cause a high rate of mortality and a lot of economic losses in poultry, in commercial birds, breeders, and and causes is very significant in public health too. Okay, so let me just quickly rush through this. I wanted to talk about the one that affects humans, but let me just quickly rush through it. And the incubation period for salmonella infection is usually typically between 4 to 6 days. It's very fast. And the incubation period is the point of contact, from the point of contact to the point where um, you start seeing the clinical signs. That means the symptoms. That's what I mean by incubation period, is the point from which a bird comes in contact with a pathogen to the time when they start showing the symptoms of the infection. Okay, so the susceptibility of these agents, a lot of people have talked about disinfectants that can help get rid of the salmonella pathogen in the environment, surfaces, equipment, and everything. And some of the major ones that I know that are very, very effective, because salmonella pathogen is very stubborn. and it can thrive in the environment for a very long time. So, and there are some agents that have been known to, give better results in disinfectants, like give better results in eliminating these agents. Some of these are, you will see on the disinfectant, it contains phenolic and also quaternary ammonium. It can inactivate salmonella from various surfaces. You can use it to, wash your equipment to make sure that you are eliminating the pathogen, because it's very stubborn. I don't want to dwell too much on things that are not so we'll just quickly move on to the business of the day. Okay. Some of these things I've talked about now, it's there are informations you can easily get from when you use our Afrimash AI called Ava. If you are on the Smart Farmers group, you see the link on how you can use Ava. Just ask your questions. I mean, we're in the AI technology age now, so you can just ask Ava, which is the Afrimash AI. You can ask all these questions. You can easily, shed more light and give you more information about this about these things. So, what are some of the clinical signs that you will see that you will know that, okay, this is salmonella infection? I want to share my screen. I just want to show you some pictures. Okay, sorry. Okay. Sorry, can you see my screen? I'm not getting any response, so please, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can
Yes,
see
we
your
can
screen.
see your screen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay,
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. Can you see this particular chick? Can you see that paste event? Most times when you see this, is usually indicating that this particular flock is there. That's why we call it bacillary white diarrhea. There's usually this chalky paste events that they have. Although it's not only limited to salmonellosis, there are some other diseases that also show these signs, but most times, especially when you see it in chicks, most times it's always indicative of Salmonella pullorum, the bacillary white diarrhea. For the chick, you see this, then you will see them, they will have, ruffled feathers, they will be weak, some of them will be sleeping. Can you see? They're usually very inactive. This one is even an older chick. Most times in fowl typhoid, you see things like this very watery feces with greenish. It has some like greenish thing, and then some will even be like white, just white, and some you see like green droppings also inside the fecal material, things like this. Although Newcastle and some other diseases also can show these signs, but I'm just saying that once you see things like this, you already have like, okay, it can be this, it can be this, it can be this, but at least you know that, okay, salmonellosis is part of your tentative diagnosis for this thing before you contact your vet. You see this, they will be sleeping, things like this will be inactive. Okay, so basically those are some of the things that you see. Some will even show respiratory distress. Some will show signs of respiratory distress. They will just open their mouth and be making some very abnormal sounds. Sometimes, yeah, that is also indicative of salmonellosis, but not every time. It's only like in few cases you see that, but it's also common. Let me just briefly explain the clinical signs. So, what if birds, like especially when young birds are infected with salmonellosis, some of them they even bring it from the hatchery. So it's very important that you get your day-old chicks from reputable sources, from people that that you can trust, that that they are not getting it from hatcheries that are not doing a good job of making sure their hatcheries is in good condition, so that certain diseases are not passed to the chicks from even while they are still inside the egg before they are hatched. So If birds are infected during their first days of life with a very high dose of bacteria, the clinical signs can be actually very severe. That's why most times when maybe a farmer calls me and says that their birds are down, and then I ask, maybe they're already even experiencing like a high rate of mortality, and then I ask how old are they, and then they tell me maybe 4 days, or some of them will even say 5 days, 6 days old. Most times salmonellosis is one of the diseases that already comes to me. Salmonellosis, there are other ones too that can happen in the first week of life for chicks, but salmonellosis is one of it. So you will see like a very high rate of mortality. Usually you see diarrhea. So that diarrhea is usually especially for those ones that are less than a week. You see that bacillary diarrhea there. That's for the. I'll still explain in detail some of the clinical signs you will see. For the older ones, like fowl typhoid, the one caused by Salmonella gallinarum, you will see a range of symptoms, decreased appetite. You see diarrhea too, like the one I showed you when I shared my screen, ruffled feathers. They will also show signs of anemia. You can even see from their comb, you see it to look pale. On a normal day, their comb is supposed to be bright red, but you see their comb is already pale. Sometimes it's indicative of salmonellosis, although it's not limited to salmonellosis. There are other diseases that causes that. You see pale comb. Their wattles too will be pale. Some of them we even have there are some that can even be as worse as them having swollen wattles. The mortality rates is usually very high. It can be high in both growing and the chicks and also adult birds. Some of the signs that you will see for chicks, definitely they'll be weak. You see them on a normal day, they should be running around. You still have heat definitely in the pen. They should be running around, eating and drinking. But what you see is that they will be weak and they'll be very inactive. Then you will also notice the fecal droppings. They will not eat, they will not drink, and then usually they will not grow at the expected rates. Usually you should weigh your birds at 1 week. Some people, even in the first week of their life, they weigh them every day. Just like that first week is usually very, very, very important. But if you weigh them at day old, and then at 7 days you are weighing them and they're not meeting the standard weights, or they're not falling into the range that they're supposed to fall into, it can also contribute. Maybe when you see other signs with it can also contribute to you noting that, okay, these birds are already down with something. Then the distinctive symptom most times in bacillary white diarrhea, that's pulorum, Salmonella pulorum, is that chalky white droppings. You will see it will be pasted to their vents, and then you also see it on the floor. For people using
Hello.
Hello, we can't hear you.
I think our
most times,
network has
although
an issue. Hello,
sorry,
Dr.
can
Toby.
you still hear
Yes,
me? Yes.
yeah, there was
Can
a
you hear me
slight,
now?
yes, there was a slight disruption in your network.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
Mm,
I don't
mm.
know where I probably lost you all. Uh,
You can just go back like maybe 3 sentences.
okay, so I was talking about the symptoms that you will see in chicks. I was talking about you seeing weakness, they will have poor appetite, there will be stunted growth, they will not grow at the rate they're supposed to grow. Maybe at 7 days when you weigh them, they are not falling into the range of the standard weights. Then some of them usually make like weird respiratory sounds that this is not normal. There are some vocalizations they make that that, oh, this is not normal. It's not usually very common, but it happens. Also, the very distinctive symptom for pulorum disease, Salmonella pulorum, is the chalky white fecal dropping. You see it pasted to their veins. You also see it in their droppings. Some might just be water, but that chalky white droppings is very, very, very distinctive. For older birds, you see anemia. You see their comb and their wattles, it's usually very pale. Some, it can even be bad that it will even be white. And that is indicated that their red blood cell count is low. Their skin also can appear pale. If you check, maybe you open their feathers, you can check even under their belly, you can clearly see the skin. You see it is pale. And then in severe cases, the abdomen can be swollen, even the wattles too can be swollen. There's usually dehydration, and how you can know that a bird is dehydrated is when you touch the skin. There is also always a consistency in the skin. When you touch it, it might like feel flaky, and then there's a way if you pull it, it returns slowly back into place. Like if you pull the skin, and then you can see a very slow return back to its position. Most times it's indicative of dehydration. So, but like when a bird is fully dehydrated, once you pull the skin, it returns back into its position like very fast. Or you see their eyes to be sunken and dry. That bird is dehydrated. Also, respiratory distress, just like the one you see in chicks too for fowl typhoid. Then weight loss. There will be weight loss. The birds will lose weight because definitely they are not eating, so there's poor feed conversion rates. That is that for the clinical signs. There are some. I'm basically talking about pullorum and gallinarum, fowl typhoid and pullorum disease. But there are some other serotypes of salmonella that can even cause neurological signs. Although those ones are not very common, but they still happen. I'm just talking about the ones that are very common in our environment. Okay, so how do you diagnose? Diagnosis, definitely the clinical signs. Once you see some of these clinical signs, it will give you like a list of the possible infections you get. So once you know that, okay, you are seeing this, you are seeing this, you are seeing this, you already know that, okay, it can be salmonella, it can be this, it can be that. Because salmonellosis has a lot of differential diagnosis. Also, the necropsy findings. And what I mean by necropsy findings is when you call your vet will ask for your mortalities, and then we'll open them up. And then there are some things that they will see that will point towards salmonellosis. So most times, once combined with the clinical signs, you've already like told your vet this is what you are seeing, and the vet too can also see it, and then opens up like to perform postmortem. And then there are some very distinct things that you see in postmortem that you know that this is salmonella. Although there are some other bacterial pathogens that cause similar lesions, which is why most times they might have to go further to do serological testing. They might have to culture the bacteria. So once they culture the bacteria, definitely it will go through the normal laboratory process where it will now be like, detected that this is salmonella organism. I hope you're all following me. Sorry, I hope I'm not too fast.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so laboratory diagnosis can help to, give a definite, like a tentative diagnosis that, okay, and yes, a confirmatory diagnosis. Because most times, clinical signs and necropsy findings will just give a tentative diagnosis. But when you go further to do laboratory tests, when it goes through laboratory diagnosis, it helps to give a confirmatory diagnosis that, okay, this is what it is. This is what we are seeing. And then that's definitely it can be a very long process compared to the vet just comes, or maybe you see it and then you tell your vet and your vet says, oh, this is this, go and buy this. But sometimes it might, it's like a 50-50 thing sometimes. So most times laboratory diagnosis helps to give a definite result. You are not saying maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But most times, once they tell you some of the clinical signs, you can say, okay, maybe this is actually a bacterial infection, this is a parasitic infection, this is a viral infection. But laboratory test is very important. It doesn't help, it doesn't, there's no 50-50 thing. You know exactly what is wrong. Okay, so I would advise to on your farm, maybe maybe after you've sold a particular flock and then you want to bring in a new batch, always make sure you run some tests. You can just how do I put it? For some people, maybe you want to use a particular farm, maybe someone else's farm, to just grow your birds. Make sure you do your test. There are some things that you can do to know that, okay, there is this particular pathogen that is present here, because if you introduce your flock to that particular pen house or to that particular farm, your birds will definitely come down. So there are steps you have to take to make sure that you do not introduce this pathogen, because it can be very, very difficult to eliminate from your farm. Once a particular flock has salmonellosis, most times we just keep having it. So as much as possible, try to make sure your birds don't come down. And if they come down with it, there are other steps you can take to, at least to an extent, eliminate it or eradicate it from your farm, so that your subsequent flocks do not come down with it. Okay. So some relevant differential diagnosis, some other diseases that looks like salmonellosis. We have E. coli. E. coli is very popular. It's also a very nasty bacterial infection. We have E. coli, which is colibacillosis. We have fowl cholera, which some people also call pasteurellosis. Then some Clostridia infections, Mycoplasma infections. There are also some viral infections that can mimic, that has similar signs to salmonellosis, like IBD. Even some parasitic infections also, like in roundworm infection and some intestinal parasites, they can also show some signs. But the most times, the common ones are usually similar to salmonellosis. We have E. coli, fowl cholera, IBD, also Newcastle disease. They have like some similar signs to salmonellosis. Also some nutritional deficiencies, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, and even in cases of poisoning can mimic salmonellosis, but like I've mentioned, the ones that are usually very common. So that's why it's very important you know exactly what you are doing. So you're not just treating, you think you're treating salmonellosis and it's actually something else that is happening to your flock. So make sure you go through the proper diagnosis to be sure that this is what you are treating. Keep using Ava. You can always ask any question from Ava, and sometimes Ava might even direct you to consult your vets, for further information. And then, like I said, your day-old chicks, it's very important to get them from a very good source. And you know that Afrimash sells day-old chicks, and Afrimash gets their day-old chicks from very reputable hatcheries, and they go through the right process to make sure that they are delivering good and healthy birds to you. There is a USSD code you can use, *347*791# to secure your order using USSD code for your day-old chicks, poultry drugs, poultry equipment, and the likes. Okay, I already explained the laboratory aspect of isolating the bacterial pathogen so that you know exactly, okay, this is what is going on in your flock. Because using this laboratory diagnosis, the vets can accurately diagnose the disease and help you to put in effective control and treatment strategies so that you manage the situation. So let's move to prevention and treatment. Yes. So I'll talk about prevention first, because they say prevention is better than cure. So let's talk about the prevention, how to make sure your flock doesn't come down with the infection. The number one thing I'm going to mention, I'm very sure every farmer has heard it times without number: biosecurity. Very important. But it can't be overemphasized, the importance of biosecurity in farming, poultry, livestock farming. If you have a very good biosecurity practice in place, trust me, there are some things you won't even know, but you will just know that, okay, you are doing well. It can take a lot. It can be, I mean, the cost can be high, but at the end of the day, it is cost effective. If in the long run, or if you look at it in the long run, it's actually very cost effective, because you'll be saving yourself a lot. Because if you don't put these biosecurity practices in place, you would eventually spend the money that you did not want to spend. You would eventually spend it, because you lose a lot. You lose birds. You buy drugs. There will be a lot of things that you're going to lose. So, like I said, put good biosecurity practices in place. As before the arrival of new birds is also one of the biosecurity practices. Before a new flock arrives, make sure you disinfect the pen house. Don't do wishy-washy. I know because I've seen them. I've seen when farmers will be like, I don't speak the way you say, I'm sorry, I'm speaking Yoruba. They just like, just wash with water and soap. You just use regular detergents. You can just go and buy, Viva or Omo and just wash. It will not do anything. There are some very nasty pathogens and they can be in that environment for years. For years. So please, I beg you, always disinfect your pen house with good disinfectants. I mentioned a particular one, the one that has phenolic compounds and the likes, to make sure that it eliminates a bulk of these pathogens from your pen house, from your from the environment. Because there is this thing with pathogens, over time, when you don't do these things, they keep growing. It's just like we humans, the way we are dominating the earth, we keep giving birth, we keep, increasing in number. It's the same thing with pathogens. If you don't tackle them and you don't reduce that, because it's difficult, it's not possible for you not to have some level of microbial load on your farm. It's not possible. But reduce it at least to the barest minimum, so that your birds, because your birds have immune system, immunity. So their immunity, that so one of the biosecurity measures, make sure their immune system is not too exposed to things that would bring them down. So if the microbial load is at least minimal, they won't just come down with infections. So I'm not saying there won't be microbial load in your farm, but it can be minimal. But over time, if you're not doing the right thing, the load will keep increasing. And after a while, you just see that you bring in a particular flock, they come down with this. Bring the other flock, they come down with this. And then throughout their life, you'll be saying, your birds have problem, or you don't know what is wrong. You don't know what is this. In developed countries like the US, the UK, if they find out your farm is down with salmonellosis, they usually close it down. It's just that there are some things we don't do here in Nigeria. In Nigeria, we still try, we are trying to treat, in developed country, they will close down your farm because they don't want this thing to spread. So they are trying to, contain that particular how do I put it, occurrence. So they're trying to, curtail it, and so it will not spread. They will close down the farm. And in Nigeria, we still try. And so please disinfect every pen house, your farm. Do regular disinfection of your farm. Do regular disinfection of your pen house before the arrival of new birds. Also, your poultry equipment, disinfect them, wash. Disinfectants, it can be expensive, but at the same time, it will save you money in the long run. Disinfect properly and make sure that every surfaces are clean, because you enter some pen house and I'll be like, why won't your birds come down? Because you see fecal pasting that I'm very sure has been there for over 2 years. It will still be there. Your battery cage, make sure is well cleaned. The pen houses, to the people that are using floor system, make sure every corner, every crevices, if there are any holes maybe in the ground, block them. Block it. Make sure there's nothing that can enter, because I told you salmonellosis can also be transferred through vectors, through some agents, and wild birds, even rodents can introduce salmonellosis to your pen house. So I wrote here that you must focus on preventing the entrance of salmonella into your flock. And effective prevention against salmonella starts from obtaining eggs. For people that usually maybe incubate their eggs themselves, obtain your eggs from birds that are certified that these birds are salmonella free. Okay. And even the equipment that you're going to use to incubate your eggs, make sure they are thoroughly disinfected. Okay, I even mentioned how disinfecting your pen house. Also, pests like rodents and insects should be under control. They are agents of transmission. Okay. Um, Restrict. I'm still talking about biosecurity. Okay, restrict movements of equipment, of people, maybe farm workers, or people are not farm workers. They're just entering your farm anyhow. Restrict movement of equipment. And what I mean by restriction of equipment, you are using a particular drinker in pen A. Something happened that drinker will find itself in pen C that has some day-old chicks, and probably that pen A has adult birds. You know that the immune system of adult birds, they are more, stronger than that of day-old chicks or young chicks. You now use that drinker, you transfer it from that adult pen, you transfer it to the chick pen. It's not right. If equipment, that you're using this one for this place, this one for that place, and if you're going to be transferring it, maybe because of course cost effectiveness, there are some things that can still be used, but make sure they are well cleaned and disinfected before you use them in another pen house. So that is restriction of the movement of equipment. Also personnel, farm workers. If you have a big farm, as you get, this one will be entering from one farm pen house to the other. Restrict their movement. Their feet can carry these pathogens and introduce to a vulnerable flock. So make sure that you restrict their movement as much as possible. Restrict the movement of people. Just allow anybody to come into your pen. Like I said, and even in your pen houses, have food dips and wash and basin that has disinfectant too. You can use the likes of iodine-based solutions like polyidine is one of the common. You can put it in, and that food dip, make sure you are changing it. Change it twice daily. Some people, that food dip, it will have algae water. You see green. That means they've not used it. What's not the point? Just cover it up and don't use the food dip if you're not going to take care of it very well. So make sure you have food dips at the entrance of your pen houses and also wash and basin. So as I'm coming in, because even when I visit farms, if I don't see that, I usually tell them, let me wash, because you don't even know what I'm bringing in. Like I said, in developed countries, you can't enter a farm anyhow. There are some that they will even give you apron you wear from the top of your head to your feet. You cannot just enter anyhow, because they are usually very big on not introducing, pathogens to their flock. So put food dips at the entrance of your pen houses. Wash and basin. Put polyidine. Your farm workers, educate them that this is why we are doing this, because some of them, they don't know. Educate them that this is why we are doing this, to reduce the microbial load that we are introducing. So because microbial is present in the environment, it cannot be eliminated, but you can reduce it to the barest minimum. Put them there. So you wash, you put your feet inside the water, the maybe polyidine water, before you enter a pen house. And even you can get how do I, there's this, I'm trying to look for the word to use for it, like aprons or like outfits they can wear when they get into the farm, that they can change so that they are actually cleaning. It's not like clothes that they will wear and they're not washed for a week. They should have change of clothes when they come into your farmhouse. If you're going to get them boots or anything, rubber boots, before they enter into your pen house, it can be expensive, but it is good. Just try and put like good hygiene practices in place. I'm still talking about biosecurity though. I'm talking about biosecurity. So then, as much as possible, minimize the number of rats you have on your farm. They are agents of transmission. Minimize them. Put baits in place to minimize their population on your farm. Also water. Yeah, your water. Try as much as, especially this raining season now, it's very important. If you can check your water maybe every month, take it to the laboratory. Tell them to run a test, water test. and tell them the reason why you're running this water test. It helps you to know that, okay, your water is free from bacterial pathogens. Run tests on your water. Make sure you are giving your birds salmonella free water and also other bacteria pathogens. Make sure it's free. Make sure your water is free. And because they said the water, there is this popular statement a lecturer of mine usually tell me, the water that you cannot drink, you should not give it to your poultry and livestock to drink. It has to be clean. It has to be safe for them. Because all these things, water, feed, they can introduce different things to your flock. Okay, so that's that about that. Biosecurity, hygiene, everything, restriction of movement and everything. That's like the major control measure to control salmonella. And then also get your day-old chicks from salmonella free hatcheries, because there are some hatcheries, I won't just mention names, but there are some hatcheries that are known for salmonellosis. Like once you get their birds, like most time when I go to them, I ask them, where did you get these birds from? And they said this place. I'll be like, oh, okay. But most times I don't just like to, blow the trumpets. But make sure you get your birds from salmonella-free hatchery, salmonella-free breeder flocks. Okay, so let's move into treatments. Okay, in the control too, I hope I mentioned quarantine protocols. Like once you are bringing in a particular new flock to your farm, make sure you don't just, because there are some people now, they'll say they partition. I understand you partition maybe the pen house to bring another new flock, but there are some other, maybe there's another flock that is already there that has been there for maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks, and it can even be older. Most times I don't even advise you to put birds that are more than 1 week older, you get, than the new flock. It's usually very dangerous. So if you're introducing a new flock to your farm, quarantine, make sure you put them in a particular place before you now introduce them in a close range to the old flock on your farm. Make sure you quarantine them, because most times the incubation period for some diseases are very short. So the purpose of quarantine is for you to maybe see if this new flock will come down with a particular thing that I need to, eliminate quickly. Imagine a flock that is already bringing in salmonella from the hatchery and you do not know, and then you just put with one older flock or maybe a 2 weeks old flock on your farm. There will be source of infection to those ones, and then you now have a very big mess on your hands. So quarantine them and watch them for like at least a week to see if they will come down with anything before introducing them to the other flock on your farm. So treatments basically is a bacterial infection. So there's usually a combination of antimicrobials that you can use, antibacterial, antibiotics majorly to combat the infection. It can be a lot. Like I said, salmonellosis can be very difficult to eliminate, but it is still possible, especially when you combine it with good hygiene practices and good biosecurity practices. So there are some major antibiotics, like some of the common ones that people know, enrofloxacin is good in treating salmonellosis. There are some that we even use combination of there are some drugs that have combination of enrofloxacin and ciprofloxacin to treat salmonellosis. But I will mention that early detection is important. If you detect a particular infection early, it helps to at least reduce the loss that you have. And it helps to, because the infection is not full blown yet. So it is important you observe your flock very closely. Any little thing that you see that is happening, if it's even one bird that you see that is just, cuddly, there's one corner and just, away from the others, the first thing you should do is to pick it up and first isolate from the other birds, isolate and keep in another place. Okay, and then you observe them close, because early detection is important in every poultry disease and livestock disease. It's even for humans too. It's the same thing. Once you know that you're already maybe shivering or this, and you quickly start using treatment, you see that at least you are better. But for some people, they will wait for 2 days, 3 days, some people even 1 week and you expect magic to happen. No. Early detection is very important for treatments to be effective. I was talking about combination of rofloxacin and ciprofloxacin. There are also some tetracyclines are also very important. They are broad spectrum antibiotics that is effective against salmonella. But in this treatment case, as a vet, I usually advise laboratory diagnosis. You can use it because there are sometimes I will use the likes of doxygen or maybe even tylodox to treat salmonellosis. Sometimes enrofloxacin and the likes, and it will go. They will actually get better. And then sometimes that you use it and use and use and use, and you see that farmer saying that it's still experiencing mortalities or it has not totally cleared off. You understand? That's why laboratory diagnosis is very important. It helps to know because there's a bacterial culture that you will do once they get some there are some things that you do once you get to the farm, maybe the postmortem from the lesions that you are seeing, or even from their fecal pasting, the samples that we get, you put it into the bacterial culture, and then over time you do your antibiotic, and there's this antibiotic sensitivity test, AST, antibiotic sensitivity test that is done. It helps to know the exact antibiotics that the pathogen is susceptible to, because we are battling the issue of antibiotic resistance. So I mean, and antibiotic resistance is actually is a major issue now in the livestock industry, because there are some antibiotics that used to be extremely effective in the past. Right now they are not. Even there are some drugs, as a vet, there are sometimes now I have to like tell them to double dose. Like maybe on the sachet of the drug, they're told to use maybe let's say like 5 grams to maybe 10 liters or maybe 5 liters. And sometimes I'll tell them to double it, because now these antibiotics, they've evolved. Some of them have grown wings, and they are now, because of the way people have misused antibiotics in the past, they have now grown very resistant to these antibiotics. So that's why I said do AST test, antibiotics resistance sensitivity test. It helps to know the exact antibiotics you should use. So you not just do 50-50. Yes, there are some common antibiotics that can treat salmonellosis, but most times there are sometimes that are not effective because maybe your flock has already grown resistant to it. So you have to do the AST test to see exactly which one that particular flock is sensitive to. Okay. That's that about the treatment. So there are some few points I want to mention in closing. The severity and specific lesions of salmonellosis, it can vary depending on the serotype of the salmonella. I already mentioned Salmonella pulmorum. I mentioned Salmonella gallinarum. There's also a particular one, Salmonella, I think typhimurium, and then enteritidis. That is also usually involved in the salmonella that is transmitted between poultry and humans. And okay, it can vary based on salmonella serotype, the age of the bird. Younger birds are usually more susceptible than older birds, and also the stage of the infection. Like I said, early detection is important. So there's a particular stage that the salmonellosis will get to. You just have to just leave it to God. Maybe you should pray, because at that point, the infection will take its course. It will spike, and at some point, it will come down. So at some point, it will get to a point where you know that just pray. Okay. That's why I said early detection is very important. Don't wait until they now start dying in numbers. Once you notice a very, very tiny little abnormality, reach out, ask questions, reach out to your vet. You can, like I said, you can also ask Ava, the Afrimash assistant. Okay. Salmonellosis can be a significant cause of mortality, especially in young birds, and also affects older birds. and it potentially leads to a persistent infection and causes transmission to the next generation. Like I said, once a particular farm already has the issue of salmonellosis, most times subsequent flocks might also come down some, because now that pathogen is now like present on your farm, and it can be except if you have to do a lot to actually like reduce the load to a minimal level that it doesn't causes infection for subsequent flocks. Postmortem examination is a very important part of diagnosing salmonellosis in poultry, along with bacteriological culture and other diagnostic tests. Those are the laboratory tests. So postmortem examination, you can use it to get, okay, tentatively it is salmonellosis. Then when you go on to now do diagnostic tests, it helps you to confirm that it is a salmonella pathogen. Also, put into make sure you understand antibiotic resistance. Like I said, there are some diseases that you think it is this. Like I said, I already mentioned some of the diseases that can look like salmonellosis. You might think salmonellosis and it is not. And you just keep bombarding them with certain antibiotics that will not be effective. And this leads to antibiotic resistance. Okay, and salmonella can develop resistance to antibiotics. So it is essential that you choose the antibiotics based on the susceptibility test. That's what I'm talking about, the AST test, the antibiotic sensitivity test, that you take lesions to the lab, and then they'll run AST test, and then they'll tell you the exact antibiotics to use. Also, biosecurity and prevention. When you implement strict biosecurity measures, such as getting salmonella-free chicks, maintaining good hygiene, it's very crucial in preventing salmonella infections on your farm. Also, consult your vet. There are some people, they like doing as if and we both went to school together. I understand that experience is important. As somebody that have been doing this for 10 years, 15 years, honestly, I give it to you. But no matter what, a vet will soon know some things more than you. Fine, there might even be some things, trust me, some experienced farmers, there are some things I've learned from them, because I'm young and I see someone that has gone 15 years ahead of me who is not a vet, but at least I've had a lot of experiences over time. There's some things I learned from them, but then I take what I learned and then I combine it with what I've learned from school, the theory aspects, the practical aspects. So me now out here, and I have to different experiences that I have had, different experiences that other farmers have had. I combine it with what I have read, what I have learned, what I went to school to get certificates for. So like I said, always consult your vets. Don't always act like you know everything, okay? Because a lot of farmers have run into losses that could have been prevented because they always try to form I know it more than these vets. They get consult your vet. A veterinarian can be consulted for proper diagnosis, for proper treatment, and management of salmonella infections in poultry and livestock. I would also repeat again, EVA is the Afrimash AI, and you can always is like one of the smartest ways, is one of the smartest tools to use to get real-time advice and keep your agribusiness moving in just like a smooth chat. Like, I mean, everybody uses AI now. So Ava is the Afrimash AI. Also use our USSD code *347*791# to order for your day old chicks, your salmonella free day old chicks. Okay. And also your poultry drugs and your poultry equipment. Or even you can get your disinfectants. You can get it from Afrimash too. Get them, make sure you put biosecurity practices, because it's still one of the major things in every disease I'll talk about. The biosecurity standouts. Okay, so I think that's all for now. I'm done. I think I used more than my time. Okay.
All right.
Femi.
Thank you. Thank you
That's
very
a good
much.
one.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
So we're
you.
going to move. We're going to move into question. Please, you have just 1 minute to answer each question. Please, if you have questions, kindly raise up your hand, and we're also going to read the ones that are here also. If you have questions, please indicate with the hand icon. All right. So I'm going to read the one in our chat box. Somebody is asking that hypo and formalin, which is the best disinfectant, which is best for disinfecting the pen house. Hypo and formalin, which is best for disinfecting the pen house.
Okay. Usually, hypo is good, yes. You can use it to. Sorry, can you hear me? You can
Of
use
course.
hypo to disinfect because it can be because people use it in the house to disinfect surfaces to kill germs and bacteria. So yes, hypo can be used, but most times I usually um use most times iodine based substances like polydine. Formalin is too can be used, but when you use formalin, you have to do it like days before um the how do I put it, the flock will arrive. So if you're using formalin, make sure you're doing it days before because it's very strong. You can use it, but most times, I'm trying to look for a particular word. Formalin most times is used to fumigate. Sometimes you can use it fumigate, but you can also use to disinfect too. Yes, you can use it, but the birds, because even humans, the smell of formalin, it can be nauseating and it can be very disturbing. So make sure the birds are not there. So you can't use formalin to disinfect maybe surfaces while the birds are there. You can use it when you are done selling a particular flock and you want to introduce a new flock. So you would have done it like at least a week before your birds arrive. Some people do 3 days, some people do 4 days, but most times I advise a week. So you have opened up everywhere for the smell to be totally eliminated. But you can use disinfectants like polydine. There are other iodine-based substances you can use to disinfect surfaces, to wash your equipment and the likes.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, the next question says that do we have effective vaccination for it? What will be the timing and how many times would it be required for a layer farm?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. No, actually, there is a vaccine for salmonellosis, but usually we don't just like tell you to go and use salmonella vaccine, except maybe you are in a very endemic area where the infection is very prominent, like maybe like that particular area is very prominent, or maybe you've now had flocks that have come down. Maybe the cause of maybe you losing previous flocks was salmonellosis. Yes, you can introduce, because when you're introducing vaccine, you're introducing the organism itself. So when you introduce the vaccine, just know that that particular pathogen is now that has come to stay on your farm, but then it helps you to put it in their system so that it can build antibodies against it. And so when they come in contact with it in the environment, they are able to fight back. So yes, but it's not everybody that I feel should use salmonella vaccine. Like I said, I already mentioned why you should use it. Maybe because previous flocks, you've lost them because of salmonella infections and it's too prominent on your farm, or maybe the environment. Yes, there is a salmonella vaccine you can use. There's a particular vaccine that I think they call it 7-in-1 vaccine that you use for layers. I think a particular one contains, I can't remember, but a particular one contains the salmonella vaccine. There's also the single dose salmonella vaccine you can use for layers. I'm trying to remember, which I think is around between 7 to 14 weeks. Within that period, that's when you can use the vaccine for them for layers, because those ones they stay longer on the farm. So yes, there are salmonella vaccines that you can use to
Okay.
prevent your flock from coming down.
All right. Thank you very much. I believe that also answered the last question of somebody saying, do you ever recommend
And yes,
vaccination?
I think it's just once. So it's just once. It's usually just once that it is given, because he mentioned how many times.
Okay. Okay. So someone asked, it says that do we have safe disinfectants that can be used for fogging? while the birds are still present in the farm, especially when near or where when rare in cages. I
Oh
don't know if you
yeah,
get the question.
yeah, I do. There are some even there because there are some viral infections that will happen that you usually have to put certain substances in the water and they'll tell you to spray. Okay, they'll tell you to spray. Basically just to reduce the viral load as much as possible. So like I know about isoclor that you can use in the water. You can use isoclor at a particular rate in the water, even polydine too. It can be used at a particular rate in the water and can be sprayed. So yes, you can use it in your fog system to just spray. While but there is a particular so you can't use it at the rate when you're using it for disinfection. So there's a minimal rate at which it has to be put in the water to use in the fog system
Okay,
while
thank
the
you very
birds are
much.
still there. Yes.
All right. So among those that raised up their hand, I think only one person. Mrs. Mayowa Kadijat, please go ahead to ask your question. Mrs. Mayowa Kadijat, if you are there, please go ahead to ask your question. All right. Okay. We want to appreciate everyone for coming for today's webinar. Please go ahead to ask your question. You are reacting with an emoji. I said go ahead to ask your question. You reacting with an emoji shows that you can hear me, so you can go ahead to ask your question if you have a question. All right, everybody. So, oh, you can't unmute. You can type. Then type your question. Type it in the chat box. If you can't unmute, type your question in the chat box. Since you texted now that you can't unmute, type it in the chat box for us, so we'll be able to read it out. So we'll just wait a while. So while we wait for Mrs. Kadijat, we want to just emphasize, as we've been saying through the webinar today, that if you have questions, agricultural questions, pertinent questions, you can ask Afrimash AI Ava, and I'm just going to drop the link again here, so you can chat Ava on that contact that word.me. When you click on that link that has that phone number, it will take you to Ava. You can reach out to Ava and ask Ava whatever question you have. And also you can place order on Ava. When you place an order via Ava, you get free shipping. So you can not just, it's not only question you can ask on Ava, you can also use Ava to place order and get free shipping. Also, you can use our USSD code *347 *791 hash to place order also for your product. If you are a new customer, you get free shipping, and even as a returning customer, you get 1,500 naira off your shipping fee. Okay, Miss Maiwa Kadijat, you are asking that your birds are dying few minutes after you give them multivitamins. What could be the issue? All right, Dr. Terry, please, you can go ahead to provide insight into that. Thank you. Dr. Terry, can you hear me?
Sorry, I didn't know that I already muted my mic. I was already
Okay,
talking.
okay. So
Okay, so
please go ahead.
I'm trying to understand this question. Okay, because now she said I lost birds within the first 2 weeks. They are always looking weak and standing while sleeping and die a few minutes after I give multivitamin. So is it that the problem is when you give multivitamins, they die, or they are dying, that's when you now give multivitamins. And then even after the multivitamins, they still die. I need to understand the questions. The question, ma. Because okay, let me just start. Hopefully, you get what you need from here. So in this case, you lost birds within the first 2 weeks. Most times when you lose birds, although I would say when you lose birds within the first 1 week of life, most times I can usually trace maybe the problem from the archery. Like most times it can usually be like an archery problem, like a problem they brought in from the archery, usually when um they are just within 1 week of age. Usually indicating that they brought this particular infection from the artery, because at least it should take some number of days before the infection incubates and then you start seeing clinical signs. So within the first 2 weeks, it can be an artery problem or your own farm problem. So it can be two things. It can either be from the artery within these 2 weeks, or your farm, or maybe your practices. So they're always looking weak and standing while sleeping. This can indicate, like I said, a particular disease can have several other diseases that show similar symptoms. So from what you said now, I can't like say that this is exactly what is wrong, except maybe in some cases when there are usually like some distinctive signs that you will see. But in this case, I can't say this is exactly what is wrong, but there are some common diseases that are usually the cause for young birds. Like when you see chick mortality, there are usually some common diseases that over time has been known to cause early chick mortality. So the likes of Newcastle disease, infectious bursar disease, even salmonellosis too that we just discussed. Also E. coli, colibacillosis, E. coli can also be it can also cause early chick mortality. Also the likes of fowl cholera too. And in some, although they're still 2 weeks, but sometimes in a 3-week-old bird, you can see cases of coccidiosis too. And there are even some too that you even see them as early as within 2 to 3 weeks. But I've just mentioned some of the things that can be wrong with them. You say you notice they are weak, you try to give glucose and multivitamins. That will not solve the problem, since they are still dying. They start struggling, and a few minutes they die. You have a particular infection on your farm that you need to treat. I would advise, I don't know what other signs can you say, because from what you've said, we can't really say this is exactly what is wrong. I've just mentioned a few diseases that can be the cause of what is happening, but I can't say this is exactly what is happening, ma. So I will still need more information on what is going on. Maybe their fecal droppings, like what color is it? What other things can you notice? Okay, when did they start dying? At what age in particular did they start dying? Please, if you are present on the Smart Farmer community, please just send this particular message to the Smart Farmers community, and then I would chat you up from there, ma.
Okay, Mrs. Mayowa, please drop your question on the smart community, and our Dr. Toby will attend to it. All right, so
Yes,
that
please.
there will be extensive discussion around it, so we
Yeah.
don't extend the purpose of this webinar beyond um, where it should be. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. Don't forget to use the Afrimash AI to ask your question, and also make sure that you use our USSD to place order. Also, you can also use the Afrimash AI to place order for your product. All right. So someone is asking for the Smart Farmer community link. Please hold on. Let me see if I can get it. You know what? For the person that is asking, please just send a message to this number. I'm going to type the number now. You just send a message to this number, then the link will be sent to you. So the person that is asking for the Smart Farmer community number, or the link. So please send the number to this number 0913. I'm typing it 5543827. So please send a message to this number to get the link for the community. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Until we come your way next time, see you.
Sorry, Femi. Sorry, apologies. There's someone that just had a message that I want to respond to. Sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Solomon Moffat, he's saying, is there any vet lab you can recommend within south of Nigeria? I know about Animal Care Lab in Asaba. And I think Asaba, yeah, is in the south. So there is an Animal Care Lab in Asaba. You can Google it to maybe get a number or something. Thank you. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
Hello. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah,
good afternoon, Mr. Nafiu. You have a question?
Is there any animal care lab that you can recommend and northwest, Jigawa, Kano, Kaduna, Kebbi, or Sokoto, like sometime around that area?
I'm not so sure. I think there is one in is it Katsina or Kaduna? I know there is one in Abuja, but I know there's one other animal care lab. But I would find out. Please, if you are present in the Smart Farmers community, please send this particular question there so I can find out. All right, sir.
Okay, so you can drop the question on the community page also, and she will definitely attend to you. Thank you so much. You are very much welcome. Please, you can also fill the post survey form that we have dropped in the chat. The post survey form, just fill it, drop your feedback, what you would like us to improve on, and how we can make your webinar experience better. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. The lecture has ended. Bye-bye, and see you next week.